Good morning. Good morning, sis.
Good morning. Hello, family, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Another big lesson today. It's a good one. Well, they're all good, but lesson 136. I'll be reading today's lesson entitled Sickness is a Defense Against the Truth. Before we launch into this, just as a reminder that what we are in truth is one creation with God. Just union is our native natural state, that we are one in God, we are one with each other, Father and Son, or one in being. So that'll help set the tone for this lesson if we remember that.
Do we need to, sis,
Mm.
do we need to perhaps remind our beautiful YouTube family, Course in Miracles family, I should say, uh, that some of the basic metaphysics before we launch into this,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that the body's an idea in our mind, not the brain, right? And
Yes.
you do that so beautifully. You explain all of that. It, I'm going back, or in my memory, to the first few years when I practiced this lesson. I did appreciate the lesson, but I found the metaphysics weren't really there for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I still didn't realize in those first 2, 3 years that the body's an idea in the mind. Would have helped me greatly.
Me too.
Yeah, if I'd known the basic metaphysics, yeah.
Yes. Well, I know you probably haven't seen this, you guys, but this is called the gap diagram.
Oh no.
Available on our website. It's a free download. But anyway, this is home. Let's just not forget that we are one in the mind of God, pure spirit. There's no bodies, there's no matter. All is just spirit, and all activity and all of life is just God, right? So there are no private minds, there are no bodies, there is no mythical me. But this insane idea of a mind saying, I wonder what it would be like to become separate from God, and another mind agreeing, that sounded like a good idea, gave rise again to the mind fell asleep. Part of the mind fell asleep. And this is the contents of the dream. So it's never become true, but it's the contents of a sleeping mind. And in it, we've got the time space continuum. In that, bodies seem to arise. The ego had the conundrum, well, if God is mind, well, how am I going to do a substitute? So it came up with this idea of a brain. The brain is in the skull of the body. And then this body gave life to many, many layers of a story and a personhood and its history, and we're off to the races, right? But let us not forget this is happening in a sleeping mind. Our role is to awaken to this, come back to mind, which is what we are. Okay?
Beautiful,
Unlimited. Yeah. All
beautiful.
right.
Thank you. Thanks, sis. I know we've said it a few times, but it's
A
it
few.
you know, in the illusion of linear time,
Mm-hmm.
it's taken us probably millions of years in
Yeah.
the illusion of time to convince ourselves that we are a body and not spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, hopefully, it's not going to take millions of years to unlearn that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay,
No, 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 we're doing this together, and that's the speed up.
thank you.
Okay. And so remember, sickness is a biggie in the gap to keep the story of mythical me going. All right. So let's have a look, and let's listen to what Jesus has to say about how we use this belief in sickness.
Yeah.
No one can heal unless he understands what purpose sickness seems to serve. For then he understands as well its purpose has no meaning. Being causeless and without a meaningful intent of any kind, it cannot be at all.
Is he saying sickness cannot be at all?
That's right. So, coming back to that first sentence, no one can heal unless he understands what purpose sickness seems to serve. Sickness seems to serve this idea that we're a body. Okay, I'm a body and I'm sick. And the sickness proves that I am the body, right? Okay, that's what it serves. Now he says, for then he understands as well, its purpose has no meaning. So the purpose has no meaning because in truth, wow, the whole room lit up. It has no purpose and no meaning because in truth, we are one, right? So sickness, it's meaningless because what it's trying to enhance is an illusion. It hasn't done anything. So that's why he's saying being causeless and without a meaningful intent of any kind, it cannot be at all. So if this first premise is an illusion and sickness is simply something that the ego's tried to lap on top of an illusion, it's all meaningless because it's not happening here in the truth. Okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
When this is really seen, I included really, healing is automatic. It, seeing this, dispels this meaningless illusion by the same approach which carries all of them to truth and merely leaves them there to disappear. What's that same approach?
So, okay, when this is seen, healing is automatic.
Yes.
It dispels this meaningless illusion by the same approach that carries all of them to truth and merely leaves them to disappear. At this point, you and I both, sis, have had numerous experiences or examples of this in our life, in our body, right? Haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So it's not a metaphor. We're here to promise you that we're not having you bark up the wrong tree. It is literal. And when the mind understands these metaphysics and has a flash of, aha, I get it. This cannot be. There is no cause to sickness. When you get that, the body harmonizes. It's like this flash of truth and love bathe the mind, and it's no longer in the illusion, and it's not projecting fear and guilt, and the body harmonizes. And it does not matter because there's no hierarchy of illusions. It does not matter what that illusion or the name of the sickness calls itself. A splinter or Alzheimer's. It's the same thing. They're both projections from the mind.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's great. And just a reminder for me that was very, very helpful is that sickness has no cause.
That's right.
Okay. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because most of us have been educated since birth that the body is a cause in itself. You know, it is autonomous from the mind, and that sickness has a cause. Sickness is a cause in itself, right?
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about that, just to give that foundation? Is that the only cause is God, right?
Right.
Is love, and does the ego have a cause?
No.
It doesn't have a cause, right? Because it's not God's reality and it has no cause. A question I want to ask then is, how can it possibly have an effect? As take sickness, for example. Do you mind to talk about that?
Sure. Okay. Well, so just backing up just a little bit,
Yeah.
this thought that we had left God created fear and guilt, right? We needed a substitute for the mind of God. If we want to get out of the mind of God, we can't, of course, but we seem to fall asleep. And the dream uses an ego thought system as its substitute for God. Again, it's only happening in a dream and it's pure illusion. And the ego thought system is comprised of the fear and the guilt that we felt upon actually believing I've separated from God, I've obliterated the sonship, I'm guilty, and now I'm expecting punishment and attack, and I'm living in a state of fear. And all of that is projected out of the mind into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways in which guilt is projected out, it's projected onto the body. It's projected into forms of attack in the form of like COVID or allergies or the belief in heredity or accidents, right? All these things happening to this body that seem to be an outside cause or a cause that we have no control over, right? So we've given cause to something else other than God. But coming back and recognizing that in God, where all is God, God is all powerful, and God is the only activity, the only effect can be the one that's derived from God being the only cause. Love and its effects, truth and its effects, Father and its effect, the Son in his image and likeness. That's the only thing that's going on. But the ego has tried in vain to make itself a cause and subject the mythical me to all sorts of forms of projections, right? Self-attack.
Good, thank you, sis.
Yeah.
And it would take two or more minds to agree that sickness is real for it to have any kind of illusory foothold in our experience. Is that true?
That's true. Because, in the absolute, when we share something, that's creation. In the ego thought system, when two sleeping minds agree to something, we're making. And that's how we seem to agree to things here in the world. We've talked about this void, the darkness, that it's illogical, it's chaos, it makes no sense, it's not in God, there's no light in it, there's no truth in it. But we're all in here gawking in the dark, agreeing with each other that, this is a body and we're separate, and that's a car, and this is my job, and that's my family, and this is my home, right? None of it makes sense. It's all based on the premise of separation. And again, remembering reality is wholeness, it's union. So anything that stands for separation cannot be the truth.
That gives me so much peace.
Doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's look at this. He says sickness is not an accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's not random.
You sure? Who said that?
Victim. No.
Is Jesus saying that?
It's all true or none of it's true. Sickness
Wow.
is not an accident.
Wow.
Like all defenses, it is an insane device for self-deception. And like all the rest, everything else in the gap, sickness's purpose is to hide reality, to attack it, change it, render it inept, distort it, twist it, and reduce it to a little pile of disassembled parts. So the wholeness, what we've attempted to do through an ego thought system, is to disassemble the wholeness of which we are of union into disassembled parts, private bodies, private minds. The aim of all defenses is to keep the truth from being whole. The parts are seen as if each one were whole within itself. There's mythical me right there. I am a kingdom unto myself. I have a mind. I have autonomy. I'm independent. I can do apart from God. I can think thoughts apart from God. And to prove that I'm separate, I can be sick. You're not sick. I'm sick. We're different. Something's happened to me, right? Okay. Defenses are not unintentional, nor are they made without awareness. They are secret magic wands you wave when truth appears to threaten what you would believe. They seem to be unconscious, but because of the rapidity with which you choose to, they seem to be unconscious, but because of the rapidity with which you choose to use them. In that second, even less, in which the choice is made, you recognize exactly what you would attempt to do and then proceed to think that it is done.
So, sis, this is a part that for many years when I began the course, I didn't understand what the threat was and why, what, you know, what would I be defending myself from through sickness? Yeah. Just didn't understand that. So can we just unpack that here?
Sure. So
Yeah.
if what we are is one and what we are is love, that love of our true nature is so powerful and so strong that it's constantly calling to us. Remember, our mind is split. So part of us, when the mind seemed to fall asleep, God's answer was the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is the voice for God. And where is it? In your mind. But the other part of your mind is sleeping, trying to have this experience that's 180 degrees opposite of what the Holy Spirit is voicing to us. And so we've got to actively engage in constant distraction and defenses, meaning drama filled, emotional laden stories to keep our mind busy and into that gap so
Yeah.
that we're not still and at peace. Because what would happen if we let go of our stories and actually became quiet? We might actually hear that voice for Holy Spirit. And when you hear the voice for Holy Spirit, and we all have at one point or another, you know that the result is a sense of peace and joy, happiness, and abiding love. You remember yourself, your holy self. And should you actually fully remember what you are, or you begin to hear the voice for God, it would pull you so strongly. That memory would just call you and you would leap back into the arms of God. What would happen to your mythical me when that occurs? That's annihilation to mythical me. It's a glad annihilation because you're running back to the arms of God because you remembered home and mythical me has no value. But while you still think that mythical me or a sense of separation holds something out for you that you want, if you're having a good life and you like your title at the office and your fat bank account and your perfect home, well, love is going to be very, very threatening. And you want defenses against it. You don't want to truly join with a brother because in that holy instant of joining, there's love. Oh no, right? So we create shields all around us against divine love, true communication, authentic communication, and the holy instant. We don't want to join with anybody. We want our masks and we just keep our glass house up and protected
That's
at
it.
all
It's
costs.
really, really well said. Thank you.
Hmm.
I think that's the key right there, you know. Now, significant defense, of course, the first line of defense is the fear of union, right? Which is the fear of love. It's
Yes.
the fear of actually showing up and being completely authentic, which involves being emotionally vulnerable. It involves being radically self-honest.
Yes.
It also involves, and I think this is a huge defense that the ego has against this. It involves recognizing that we are accountable for every ego thought that we have and every projection that we have.
That's it.
So, that's a huge threat to the ego thought system,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I
Right.
would much rather have everybody believe that I'm a victim and that something like a disease has happened to me, and
Mhm.
I welcome the sympathy that I'm going to receive, right? The ego just sucks it up. It's like, yes, yes, yes. It does not want us to realize, wait a second, I'm using sickness. I've called this to me. I'm accountable for everything that happens to me. I'm not a victim.
Mhm.
And why am I using this? To bolster the first lie that I am this body, right? And
Mhm.
what's that for? To prove that I have left God and I'm separate from you.
Right. Right.
So the sickness is just smoke and mirrors. There
It
is
is.
no sickness.
Right. So another thing that happens is the what I call the ego backlash. All right.
Mhm.
I've had this, well, I was consciously aware of it hundreds of times after the fact.
Mhm.
Not, not right then when it happened. This is what we're talking.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a second. Sis is frozen. give it a second, see if she comes back.
About here in this lesson is,
Time out, sis.
uh-oh.
Sis? Can you hear me? This is so very ego right now. Sis, if you can hear me, you're going to have to change your internet setting. So I'm thinking she's probably going to back out and then come back in. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, what happened? I mean, we're still recording. So those who are watching this,
yes,
are going to see that we've had an internet interruption because the ego is so friggin' pissed that we are busting its cover. All right.
Yes.
So that's what's happened. And this time it wasn't my internet.
Really?
No, mine is all full on, right?
Okay. Well, that's the ego then. Well, it's always the ego that interrupts us. But anyhow, yes.
Okay. Can you see how many minutes we are? Because maybe we should just edit that bit so people don't waste that.
I don't have a timestamp.
Okay. That's fine.
We're okay.
All right. We're okay.
Do you remember what you were saying?
No.
Okay.
The ego's wiped it. No, I want to finish that. The ego backlash.
Yes.
See? The ego backlash. I'll set too late. Ah! Frozen.
No, when Coreen freezes, it's like, it's never good. Anyway.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the finger on the nose. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to talk about the ego backlash, right? I'm going to give a perfect example that happened a few days ago, with a family member. And a family member had the experience of the most profound love she'd ever experienced in this lifetime. All right. And it completely as if it subsumed everything she ever knew before that experience of love. It was the biggest experience she's ever had in her life. Okay. So about 60 seconds, maybe less, after that experience, she noticed a really bad, stinging, burning pain in her right leg. Okay, let's collapse this. Mm-hmm. So she calls a doctor afterwards. Bad move. And says what's happening. And the doctor then says, well, you've got shingles. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we've since talked about this, and she recollects that opening to love, that opening to union, and then the ego completely contracting, snapping back, and the outcome being the illusion of sickness. Yeah. So I just want to say it happens so quickly, we're not conscious of it usually, right?
Yes.
We're not frozen?
You just froze for a second, but we're okay. Oh, we got it.
All right.
We're going to get through this lesson. So that's beautiful. So, but I don't want anybody here. I remember my dad telling me this. Like, I don't want to excel too far, because the higher you go, the worse the problems get. And I'm like, wow, okay. So as we experience the truth and love and union, right, the ego will attempt to regain lost ground, and yet it still remains an illusion. You don't have
powerless.
That's right.
Completely.
You don't have to be ragdolled around by an illusion. It's in that there's not two powers.
Thank you.
Okay? We're not waffling between like a pendulum between two powers. One is real, one isn't. So you can claim your authority. My inheritance is a perfect divine love. The truth of my being is that I and the Father are one. And that has never changed, nor can it change. So I cannot be a battering ram for some false belief. Okay? That's
Thank
really
you.
important.
Thanks for affirming that.
Yes.
That is so important. There are not two powers.
No.
Only one.
That's right.
Only
It's
love.
only our belief. It's only our belief that seems to give it temporary power.
Mhm.
We consent to it. So therefore we look at an image, an illusion, and it seems to be doing something to us, and only because of our consent. That's the power of our mind. There's a suggestion, we believe in it. When you disbelieve in it, it falls. No matter what it calls itself. We agree to disagree with it because now we're, God, what are you doing? What's the truth here? And that's the one that's got power because it is the truth. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, here he goes. Who but yourself evaluates a threat, decides escape is necessary, and sets up a series of defenses to reduce the threat which has been judged as real? There you go. All this cannot be done unconsciously. But afterwards, your plan requires that you must forget you made it. So it seems to be external to your own intent, a happening beyond your state of mind, an outcome with a real effect on you instead of one effected by yourself. Okay? Boy, when you tell somebody that this is that they created, that they're seeming to cause this, that they've asked for it, how offended will they get if they're not on this path, right? You dare not even say it because they're going to look at you like they're absolutely crazy, but it's the absolute truth. This was an intentional decision to not know ourselves and to bring everything along that comes in that gap. It is this quick forgetting on the part you play in making your reality, which makes defenses seem to be beyond your own control. But what you have forgot can be remembered, given willingness to reconsider the decision, which is doubly shielded by oblivion. Your not remembering is but the sign that this decision still remains in force as far as your desires are concerned. So the lack of our accountability, the lack of our willingness to be accountable is commensurate with our desire to keep the story running.
Yeah, well said. Thank you.
So mistake this, what we think we've done, for fact. Defenses must make facts unrecognizable. They aim at doing this, and this they seem to do. Every defense takes fragments of the whole, assembles them without regard to all of their true relationships, and thus constructs illusions of a whole which is not there. It is this process which imposes threat and not whatever outcome may result. So the issue is this desire for separation, to make separate parts of the whole. That's where the correction needs to be, not in the way that it's playing out. It's that first thought of that separation could possibly occur. When parts are wrested from the whole and seen as separate and wholes within themselves, mythical me, they become symbols standing for attack upon the whole. Successful in effect, and never to be seen as whole again. And yet you have forgotten that they stand but for your own decision of what should be real to take the place of what is real. It really is an attack on the whole to think that you are mythical me, and it takes a great deal of humility to recognize what this desire is declaring. It's an act of war on the sonship, on union, on God. Fortunately, God cannot be threatened, but in the dream, that's really the outcome of our desire. A mind that thinks that it is apart from the whole is a diseased mind. It is a mind not at ease, not at rest, in a constant state of fight or flight. And everything that that diseased mind projects is sick. Whether we can look at it and say, oh, it's not sick now, it seems okay. Any projection from a diseased mind is fearful, and the end of that projection is destruction.
Yeah, I think it's a psychotherapy pamphlet that came from Jesus after the course was dictated. There's a line there that all sickness is mental illness.
Yeah.
That backs up what you've just explained there.
Yeah. Oh, that the poor mind. I mean, it really, to take its place, to come back and rest in God, to allow it to become whole, is health. Really feeling and seeing that now. So these parts, when wrested from the whole and seen as separate and wholes within themselves, they become symbols standing for attack upon the whole, successful in effect and never to be seen as whole again. And yet you have forgotten that they stand but for your own decision of what should be real to take the place of what is real. Sickness is a decision. There he says it again. It is not a thing that happens to you quite unsought, which makes you weak and brings you suffering. It is a choice you make, a plan you lay. When for an instant truth arises in your own deluded mind and all your world appears to totter and prepare to fall. Now are you sick, that truth may go away and threaten your establishments no more. Wow. Love is such a threat. Union is such a threat. God is such a threat that we would order the body to become sick and age and decay and die to keep the truth out of our mind. I choose death before I choose God and union. That's what we've done. Okay, stay with us, guys. I know this is really harsh, but it gets better. The lesson gets better. He always takes us down and then brings us up.
Thank God he brings us up again.
People are at home weaving their noose right now. It's like, I just want out.
See, sorry, sis, what were you saying?
Just people are going to be planning to off themselves if we don't.
I know, but this is important. First, a few times I went through this lesson in the beginning, I had such guilt. It made me sick. Yeah. So there was a terrible self-loathing that came with this lesson for me. There were, because I had a huge investment in pain, physical pain. I'd inherited that idea from my mother, that was the safest place to be, was to be in physical pain. Thank God that one's gone. But then when I saw this, I was like, you mean I am choosing this? I'm laying this plan as a defense against love, against God. I'm like, oh, holy shit. Sorry, but like it was really big.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't recognize it at the time, but the ego took it, the spiritual ego, and flogged me with it.
Sure.
Saying, look at you, how could you do this? So we've got to be very, very careful not to fall down that hole.
Yeah.
Right. There's not to be any self-judgment for this.
No. Because again, the only place that whatever you are remembering seemed to occur was in an illusory gap. So it never actually happened. And the past is gone. It does not exist. So it can't have any effects today. We don't need to be beating ourselves up for some past memory when that's an illusion as well. You get a clean slate every now moment when you side up with God. The ego wants you to have this false past and carry it along with like a heavy sack over your shoulder. But, you can let that shit go. Uh,
Very good. Thank
yeah,
you. You're
yeah,
speaking my language.
yeah, right? Good word. Yeah. Okay. So, how do you think that sickness can succeed in shielding you from truth? Because it proves the body is not separate from you, and so you must be separate from the truth. You suffer. So, if you are this body,
Mm-hmm.
you're not here, obviously, where no matter is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sickness proves that this is you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you must be separate from the truth. You're not in the mind of God. Okay, you suffer pain because the body does. And in this pain are you made one with it. Thus is your true mythical me identity preserved, and the strange haunting thought that you might be something beyond this little pile of dust silenced and stilled. For see, this dust can make you suffer, twist your limbs, and stop your heart, commanding you to die and cease to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is how the ego uses the body to shriek that you are the body and not the mind that's thinking it.
So, but the truth here is that the body as an idea
Mm-hmm.
that's being projected in every single moment, it doesn't have a past.
Mm-hmm.
So, as that, when we really open our mind to that, we realize that the body is completely neutral.
That's right.
It's just a neutral idea. So it's not rooted in the past, right? Either, is it?
No.
Because a lot of this, the ego's investment in sickness comes from the idea that the body's real, right? And that the sickness that was caused in the past
Mm-hmm.
can't be healed now
Right.
because it was caused in the past.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. That's another little trick
Mm-hmm.
that the ego
Yeah.
pulls on us. And what Jesus is saying, and he says it many different ways in the course, is time is not a cause either.
Right.
Time cannot harm us in aging and death, and time cannot heal us either. It's neutral. Time is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one, right?
Right.
So if I mistakenly believe that the cause of a disease in the body I have now is in the past,
Mm-hmm.
the tricky ego goes, oh, it's in the past,
Mm-hmm.
so it can't be healed now
That's right.
because the cause is in the past. So it separates the past from now,
That's right.
where the only instant, which is the holy instant, which is eternal, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
the only instant where we can truly receive full healing through the atonement is kept away from our awareness and our acceptance by the ego's story, right?
Yeah. So it's like saying we're buried in the past. Like the cause is buried in the past. Say you had an accident 20 years ago that left the body disfigured or something, right? And if you believe that you live in the body,
Mm-hmm.
you're bound by it. You're bound by the laws of whatever happened around that incident, and whatever the world tells you is going to be your fate because of that past incident. And you go along and you're doomed. You're buried and you're governed completely by the ego's laws around that incident. But what was the resurrection? Right? That was, hey guys, the body is a now moment projection. You are not in the body. The body is in your mind. That mind is what you are. He took dominion and possession of the body and proved, you all saw me. I was up there, beaten, torn, crucified and killed, dead body wrapped up, stuck in the tomb, put the stone in front of it, right? I'm buried. Ego's law says that's it. He's toast. Even his disciples that walked with him and saw all these miracles were like, let's get back to fishing. There's nothing we can do now, right? But 3 days later, what does he do? He's back. It's like this new body. It's beautiful. And he's there and he's just saying this. That was the proof. That was the proof that you are mind, not the body. The body is a symbol in your mind. And you have the ability to put it down and take it up and then take it up. It's yours. It's neutral and it will follow your directive. You are not the servant to the body. And this is that switch around, and we all have to come to it. If your body is a now moment projection, take it out from under the ego's laws. Erase the past. I am right now perfect, whole, and complete as God is causing me to be. I'm not the past. There is no past. And if you know that, that's instantaneous healing. It's the freedom from the belief that healing takes time.
We should have taped this. That was fantastic.
We are.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Oh, thank you. Oh, boy. I'm going to press replay on this quite a few times. Thank you, Steph. Oh, I love your conviction. Hopefully it's contagious.
Well, he meant it, He meant it and he proved it, and he expects us to do the same, and why not, Only the ego says, well, false humility, you can't do that. Yes, we can. Okay, paragraph 10 in the COA, I'm guessing it's probably 11 in FIP. Thus is the body stronger than the truth?
Yes, it's 9 in the FIP.
Oh, 9. Sorry, that's right. Okay. So he's still talking about what the ego's boasting, right? Dust can make you suffer, twist your limbs, stop your heart, command you to die, cease to be. Thus is the body stronger than the truth, which asks you live but cannot overcome your choice to die.
That's that free will with the ego. Free will. What is free will, right? The ego's free will is the choice to suffer and die.
That's it. That's all it can choose.
No frills.
That's the basic plan. Okay. And so the body is more powerful than everlasting life, heaven more frail than hell, and God's design for the salvation of his son opposed by a decision stronger than his will. His son is dust, the Father incomplete, and chaos sits in triumph on his throne. Such is your planning for your own defense. And you believe that heaven quails before such mad attacks as these, with God made blind by your illusions, truth turned into lies, and all the universe made slave to laws which your defenses would impose on it. Boy, Jesus is on fire right now.
Oh, yeah.
He's just, yet who believes illusions but the one who made them up? Who else can see them and react to them as if they were the truth? Here he comes. God knows not of your plans to change his will. The universe remains unheeding of the laws by which you thought to govern it, and heaven has not bowed to hell, nor life to death. You can but choose to think you die, or suffer sickness, or distort the truth in any way. What is created is apart from all of this. Defenses are plans to defeat what cannot be attacked. What is unalterable cannot change, and what is wholly sinless cannot sin. Such is the simple truth. It does not make appeal to might nor triumph. It does not command obedience, nor seek to prove how pitiful and futile your attempts to plan defenses which would alter it. It merely wants to give you happiness, for such its purpose is. Perhaps it sighs a little when you throw away its gifts, and yet it knows with perfect certainty that what God wills for you must be received. He's really pointing, there's this rest, there's this surrender, There's the childlike trust and humility. We're not fighting a real war. There is not two powers. God is not cognizant of the dream. We don't have to undo anything real. We forgive. We forgive ourselves for believing that an illusion could be true and therefore have any effect at all. It's this. It's a wiping away. I'm forgiving it. I thought I saw something. I thought I understood something. I didn't know anything. Holy Spirit, my right mind, restore. Bring my mind back to wholeness. Wake me up that my mind might be whole, that I can share my mind with God and know as God is causing me to know. So it's not a real battle. It's not an efforting. It's not using the I know mind or becoming the world's best spiritual student. It's in all glory to you, Father. I'm sorry I thought I could usurp your throne. It's you.
Yeah.
It's all you.
You can feel it in your heart, when you go in. Mm-hmm. For me, it's it's that moment, that holy instant when I genuinely on my knees join with Holy Spirit to say, or Jesus, and say, look, help me to forgive myself for believing this. Yeah. I'm so sorry for believing any of it. Right. Yeah, that's it. And then he can wipe pause or the effects of separation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, sis. And yet it knows with perfect certainty that what God wills for you must be received. It is this fact which demonstrates that time is an illusion, for it lets you think what God has given you is not the truth right now, as it must be. The thoughts of God are quite apart from time, for time is but another meaningless defense you made against the truth. Yet what God wills is here, and you remain as He created you. Thank God. Truth has a power far beyond defense, for no illusion can remain where it has been allowed to enter. And it comes to any mind which would lay down its arms and cease to play with folly.
That's the belief, that's the mistaken belief that there is a power apart from God, right?
Or a will, right.
A will, yeah.
That's just acknowledging God again. This truth, it is found at any time, today, if you will choose to practice giving welcome to the truth. This is our aim today. And we will give a quarter of an hour twice to ask the truth to come to us and set us free. And truth will come, for it has never been apart from us. It merely waits for just this invitation which we give today. We introduce it with a healing prayer to help us rise above defensiveness and let truth be as it has always been. Sickness is a defense against the truth. I will accept the truth of what I am and let my mind be wholly healed today. Healing will flash across your open mind as peace and truth arise to take the place of war and vain imaginings. There will be no dark corners sickness can conceal and keep defended from the light of truth. There will be no dim figures from your dreams, nor their obscure and meaningless pursuits with double purposes insanely sought, remaining in your mind. It will be healed of all the sickly wishes that it tried to authorize the body to obey. Now is the body healed because the source of sickness has been opened to relief. And you will recognize you practiced well by this. The body should not feel at all. If you have been successful, there will be no sense of feeling ill or feeling well, of pain or pleasure. No response at all is in the mind to what the body does. Its usefulness remains, and nothing more. That's the usefulness of using our body as a communication device, as an instrument for the will of God to return the sonship to its original wholeness.
That's transcending self-interest again.
Yes. Perhaps you do not realize that this removes the limits you had placed upon the body by the purposes you gave to it. As these are laid aside, the strength the body has will always be enough to serve all truly useful purposes. The body's health is fully guaranteed because it is not limited by time, by weather or fatigue, by food and drink, or any laws you made it serve before. You need do nothing now to make it well, for sickness has become impossible. Yet this protection needs to be preserved by careful watching. If you let your mind harbor attack thoughts, yield to judgment, or make plans against uncertainties to come, you have again misplaced yourself and made a bodily identity which will attack the body, for the mind is sick. Give instant remedy should this occur, by not allowing your defensiveness to hurt you longer. Do not be confused about what must be healed, but tell yourself, I have forgotten what I really am, for I mistook my body for myself. Sickness is a defense against the truth, but I am not a body, and my mind cannot attack. So I cannot be sick. Sickness is a defense against the truth.
I'll say that this is one of the most powerful lessons out of all 365 lessons, this one. It's a pivotal lesson, you know. Yeah. And thank you. I felt that, sis. I was right there with you, joining in that pause, that divine pause, to allow this light to flood through your mind, through mine, and through all our beautiful Course in Miracles family here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today, just my deepest desire, and it's his desire, that we really get this today, to really accept that the body is in the mind. We're not at the mercy of the body. We are not at the mercy of the ego. This was a choice. Thank God it never occurred, and we can forgive it and put order, cause and effect back. All we're ever addressing is the mind. And a mind that knows its wholeness can't project anything less than harmony and joy and divine love and abundance and total satisfaction. The kingdom of heaven that's within you right now is recognized and experienced.
So just to go a little bit deeper on this,
Yeah.
a mind that knows its wholeness.
Yes.
I struggled with that for decades. Theory wasn't enough for me, you know. In the end, on my knees, I had to ask Holy Spirit, Jesus, come in, please. What the hell do you mean? What obviously I was missing the experience. So I asked him for the experience of that. Now, what came as a result of that is the part that was missing was the experience of my incorruptible innocence.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That was it. That's what pulled me across the line. Then I realized in my experience the wholeness that's necessary, right? But we can't do that while we still believe that we're guilty. And you know, we can tell that we still believe we're guilty while we're being triggered by other people and believing that it's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right? While we believe we're a victim
Yes.
of somebody or something, it means that there's guilt that's seeing it. It's that filter of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what needs to be relinquished.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah. So thank you for accepting yourself as God created you, which is spotless, perfect love, perfect innocence with no opposite.
Thank you, sis.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, family. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Yes.